Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. And as promised, we are live again to get caught up on the headlines. It is November 9th, 2025. And why am I checking in with you guys today? Well, I had another epiphany about why people keep passing out in the Oval Office. Now, if you hadn't noticed by now, there is a pattern emerging of people fainting and passing out in the Oval Office, and you're not going to believe what was revealed to me. I'm going to share that with you along with some other headlines. And the physical reality exists alongside a hidden spiritual reality. By now, if you're new to the channel and just tuning in, you might not realize this, but this is absolutely the case. Those that have been on the journey for all of this time, you know this to be the case, that there is something crossing over, isn't there? Now we are seeing the positive version of that, God revealing things to us before they happen, to prepare his people so that they are not deceived, so they do not fall for the traps. And this is in spite of the enemy controlling this reality. God has a way out for people who want to know the truth, for people who open their hearts and their minds to the possibility of God revealing these things to protect his people. So here we are, the still small voice of truth. And when you're still and you know that he's God, you will hear the still small voice that reveals the hidden things. Now this time, I remembered that there was another fainting incident in the Oval Office during a press conference. You all remember it. Hopefully you do. This is it. This was Dr. Oz's granddaughter. And you all remember this instance where she fainted. Let's see if this plays this video. Oh, that's probably something else. I don't know why that video. But here's Dr. Oz's granddaughter passed out in the Oval Office in nearly the same location as the person that just fainted. And we'll get into all that as well. Because yesterday, there was another fainting. White House guest collapses behind President Trump as medical situation cuts off Oval Office press conference. And once again, Dr. Oz was present. Now, what does all this mean? Well, that's what we're going to get into today. Now, it seemed just like yesterday that Dr. Oz's granddaughter fainted in the Oval Office. Her name was Philomena. And looking back, we thought that was a strange name, but I hadn't put the puzzle pieces together yet, nor had there been a fainting pattern yet. But in hindsight, we can look back and begin to unlock the secrets of this phenomenon. Let's look at the time frames here first, because that definitely reveals something. The time frames between these two faintings, because there's actually a pattern to that as well. So I went into timeanddate.com and I looked at the number of days between the two instances. April 18th, 2025, earlier this year. I know that this just felt like yesterday, right? But it was actually all the way back in April. And of course, 11/6, which is a couple days ago. 202 days between the two. 6 months, 19 days. That is a mirror number. 619 is a mirror because you can flip that upside down like a palindrome and it says the same thing. But there's a little bit more to this. April 18th is very near the mirror date of 9/11. Yes, April 21st is actually the mirror date of 9/11, a few days after the first fainting spell in the Oval Office. And why is April 21st a mirror date of 9/11? Well, April 21st is the 111th day of the year, and 9/11 has 111 days left in the year. And of course, 11/6 is 9/11 inverted. Yes, November is a month that encodes many 9/11 dates. This is why we always watch these dates. 11/6, 11/11. All of these dates have significance. Remember, in the Roman calendar, or in the Julian calendar, the month of November was the 9th month, not the 11th month. Now, we, of course, are in the Gregorian calendar, but there are lots of crossovers. So, these two faintings essentially represent a spiritual mirror pair. A mirror pair, twin faintings. But there is a much deeper spiritual meaning behind all this, and the key to unlocking this is the name Philomena. Let's read about what happened first in these two instances, and then I'll dig into these deeper spiritual meanings about what all this means, because you're not even going to believe it. It's all about dozing off Dr. Oze. It's all about the Wizard of Oz. It's all about the fever dream that Dorothy had in the Wizard of Oz. It's all about sleep and Ozempic. Blown away, you guys, blown away. Let me check in with you guys, and then we'll read the two stories and then unlock all of this. Yes, Dr. Sleep is running the country. Good morning. There's Rod Jones, Betty, Kava, Paige, Anthony, Meatball, Tonette, Jay Hart. Now, I guarantee you, you will not have heard what I'm going to show you today, because this is all, again, Holy Spirit inspired to wake people up so they can have a fighting chance to not be deceived in these end times. Well, I did not copy this from any other YouTube channels. This is original content. Let's go ahead and get started. So the first instance, Dr. Mehmet Oz's granddaughter is on the mend after she fainted during a press event at the White House. She was 11 years old. Remember, we just talked about the number 11, the number 9. The celebrity physician turned Centers for Medicare and Medicaid boss said his granddaughter, Philomena, swiftly recovered with some ice cream as she collapsed in the Oval Office Friday afternoon and brought a question and answer session with the president to a screeching halt. Now remember, this newest fainting episode, the same thing happened. The attention was taken off of Trump, and people noticed that he didn't even go to help. He seemed irritated that somebody else had fainted. Let's keep reading here. Thank you to everyone who had checked in on our granddaughter Philomena after her eventful afternoon in the Oval Office, Oz said Sunday on Instagram with a photo of the girl enjoying her sweet treat. I'm grateful to report that she is recovering quickly and was treated to delicious Navy mess soft serve and some very special time speaking with Donald Trump while he explored the treasure drawer of the Resolute desk together. Weird. They mention ice cream. Of course, ice cream is coded language, right? It was in the WikiLeaks. Code for children, wasn't it? Let's keep reading here. The 64-year-old had just been sworn in when Trump began asking questions on several topics from the assembled press pool. Minutes later, pandemonium broke out with the young girl hit the floor. Oz rushed his granddaughter to his granddaughter's side as White House aides cleared reporters. So remember, again, Oz was the first to the scene in this fainting, similar to the event that happened a few days ago. Let's keep reading here. Let's see here. Philomena's mother, Daphne Oz, said the 11-year-old bounced right back in an Instagram post where she shared her gratitude to Trump and relief that the fainting spell was nothing serious. Now, there wasn't too much else to report on this. It was of note. Let's go fast forward to 202 days later and this current fainting spell that just happened 3 days ago. White House guest collapses behind President Trump as a medical situation cuts off Oval Office press conference. Now, here's what's interesting. A representative for pharmaceutical company Eli Lilly said that the man is now receiving the best medical care. And this had actually interrupted this representative for Eli Lilly as he was talking about bringing down the cost of Ozempic, which just so happens to be Dr. Oz's name. During the conference, which was being broadcast on Fox News and live streamed on multiple platforms, an individual stumbled forward and subsequently fell to the ground as Dave Lilly, the CEO of Eli Lilly, began to speak about the new price reduction in weight loss drugs. A man who was yet to be identified took a heavy step forward, prompting Lilly to pause his remarks and say, "You okay? Gordon, you okay?" The men on each side of the individual both grabbed onto his arms in order to support him as he continued to move toward the ground. Dr. Mehmet Oz rushed toward him to help lower him to the ground. Now, I don't know if you noticed this or not, but Donald Trump's hair has changed. The famed hair now, to me, looks like devil horns. Here's another image of Trump's hair. It's noticeable, isn't it? The horns are coming out. Let's keep reading here. White House personnel then cleared the press from the Oval Office, prompting the live stream coverage to abruptly end. Minutes later, coverage resumed, and Trump provided an update on the man's status. One of the representatives of one of the companies got a bit lightheaded. Trump said, "You saw he went down, and he's fine. They just sent him out. He's got doctor's care, but he's fine." So we had a little bit of an interruption. Sorry for that. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt also addressed the incident in a statement. Wow. Now, they're saying that the identity of the man who collapsed is not immediately clear. I mean, there might have been an update to this since I've researched this, but this is pretty strange, isn't it? They don't know who this person was, or they don't want to tell us who he was. Today at the White House press conference, one of the guests became overwhelmed by the events of the day and had a brief medical situation. He's receiving the best medical care. A representative from Novo Nordisk, the Ozempic manufacturing company that was also present at the press conference, tells Entertainment Weekly the fainting man was not Novo Nordisk employee Gordon Finley, whom the company said was not present at the event. Despite incorrect reports that Finley was the man in question, CEO Mike Dustar and EVP of U.S. Operations Dave Moore, two men who helped the fainting man as he fell, were the only two representatives from the company present at the event. The incident occurred during a conference announcing that the cost of Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, and Zepbound will be reduced for Medicare and Medicaid patients. Now, here's where we get into the spiritual. Earlier, I said that Philomena's name was the key to unlocking all this, and all I did was do a search on Philo or Philo and sleep or fainting, and lo and behold, it's actually a thing. Yes, Philo the philosopher analyzed the Greek word hypnos, which of course hypnotism came from, but hypnos literally means sleep. It's the Greek word for sleep, dreams, and Philo. Remember, the first 5 letters of Philomena's name analyzed hypnos, sleep, dreams, and saw them as divine messages. In fact, Philo the philosopher wrote these writings called De Somnis. Of course, somnus, I believe there's actually a drug for sleep called, what is it called? Is it somnus or something like, which means sleep as well. But it says here that Philo the philosopher looked into the dreams of Joseph, of the cupbearer, the baker, and the Pharaoh. Philo's 3 other books on dreams have been lost. The first of these, on the dreams of Abimelech and Laban, preceded the present book and discussed the dreams in which God himself spoke with the dreamers. This fitting in very well with Genesis 3. Now, is there a divine message to these faintings? I believe there is. Let's dig a little bit deeper, because I realized, or Philo realized, something that we ourselves realized in the infancy of this channel years and years ago. One of my favorite biblical studies was dreams in the Bible. And what we found years ago was that every single mention of a dream in the Bible, every single one, was about a future event that had not happened yet. Yes, every dream in the Bible is or was prophetic. Now, of course, the plot thickens at this point, doesn't it? The next question I wanted to ask was, is there a twin aspect to all of this? You know, like the twin dates of the faintings in the Oval Office. And yes, there is. Hypnos had a twin brother. Hypnos, the god of sleep, had a twin brother named Thanatos, which of course sounds like Thanos, right? From, I think, the Marvel Universe. Thanatos was the god of death. And Hypnos was so powerful. Now, of course, this is all mythology. As some of this crosses over into reality, I don't believe in the ancient mythology, because a lot of it is knockoffs of the reality and the truth of the Bible. So they can kind of stir the pot and mix things up and confuse people. But there are some things that we can be gleaned from this ancient mythology, because it's all knockoffs. It's the devil's rendition of the holy things, right? But apparently, Hypnos was so powerful that he could even put Zeus to sleep. Zeus is Apollo. Wow. And now we're starting to see Apollo, Trump, dozing off to sleep in the wake of these faintings, or this fainting. Are you awake yet? I hope you are. The two have to be connected on a spiritual level. Now, to take this a step further, Dr. Oz was present at both of the faintings, as we mentioned, which brings us to Dr. Sleep. Many of you will remember the videos we did on Dr. Sleep, the sequel to the movie The Shining. And in the sequel to the movie The Shining, Dr. Sleep, the breath of life, and what they called it steam, was harvested from children to extend the life of these demons that were essentially running around in our reality. They would literally pull the steam out of these children, or their breath of life. So I had to look this up, and I realized that Dr. Oz, in fact, runs a sleep clinic. And is it an accident that they were discussing Ozempic? Now, here's where things go off the rails, because now we have clarity on why they named the movie, the 1939 movie, The Wizard of Oz. It was all a dream. The 1939 movie adaptation strongly implies that Dorothy's experience in Oz was a dream, showing her waking up in bed at the end of her family surrounding her. The land of Oz is the land of dreams. Wow. God is good, isn't he? Revealing all these things so that we can have understanding. The question now is, why is the Wizard of Oz in the name of a weight loss drug? What can that be about? Now wait until you hear this. Here's some more supporting evidence. Philo of Alexandria de Somnis. Here are the excerpts from Philo's studies on biblical dreams. And we'll go through that at some point in the next show. But this is insane. I'll have to dig deeper on this, but I'll put a link to this for those of you that want to dig into this further. So we have two questions. Why is the Wizard of Oz in the name of a weight loss drug? And why does the word doze, like dozing off, have the word Oz in it? Well, according to my research, the word doze came first. So maybe the land of Oz was a play on the word doze, since the whole thing was a dream, right? So what does all this mean? Well, Ozempic causes drowsiness. Sleep. The very subject that they were talking about when the guy fainted. And I had to get into these Gila monster because the Gila monster, the venom of the Gila monster is what Ozempic is made from. So I dug into this, and the Gila monster venom, not the actual Ozempic, because it's only one of the proteins that's used in Ozempic, but in general, Gila monster venom can cause partial paralysis. It can also inhibit muscle contraction. Essentially, it puts your body to sleep. It also slows the emptying of food from your stomach, putting your stomach to sleep. Now, this muscle thing, I don't know if this is connected or not, but essentially, muscle loss is one of the side effects of Ozempic. And you have to wonder if this has something to do with the inhibition of muscle contraction with the drug. Wow. Now, wanted to double down on the Gila monster. Pulled up the Wikipedia article on this. And essentially, you ready for this? The foul breath of the Gila monster was so foul that it would draw in insects and, quote, the foul gas overcoming them, unquote. Let's look that up. So you have to wonder, right? You have to wonder the steam, the foul breath. Now, one protein, helothermine, let's look it up. Helothermine, here it is, causes lethargy and partial paralysis of the limbs. Now, again, this is just in the venom, not in the drug. Partial paralysis of the limbs. Notice the word helo. Dr. Oz is Dr. Sleep. Is the only way you could slice this after everything that I just showed you. And this is pretty much where the trail of evidence ended. But this is not good, you guys. This is not good. Spiritual manifestation of sleep in the Oval Office. And as far as I can tell, what seems to be happening here, again, I don't know all the answers. I'm just here trying to figure this all out like all of you, present to you the evidence of things that seem to be happening. But as far as I can tell, they are signaling that America is asleep at the wheel. And they are also signaling the mass hypnosis that people will be under as they roll out Ozempic to the masses. Problem, reaction, solution. They made everybody obese with the kinds of food they fed us for decades and decades. It started with the smorgasbord phenomenon in the 80s and 90s. And then it started with the shows glorifying obesity. Problem, reaction, solution. They created the problem so that they could then solve it with the venom of a reptile. Wow. Now, speaking of injections, because this seems to be the predictive programming, right? Murder hornets swarm and killed a father and son while they were ziplining. Look at this. Murder hornet swarm kill father and son ziplining. Pair stung more than 100 times. This was on the 4th of November. American father and son died after being stung by a swarm of hornets while ziplining in Southeast Asia. Daniel Owen, 47, from Idaho Falls, and son Cooper, 15, died following an attack last month at Green Jungle Park in Laos, just northeast of Thailand. Holy smokes. So, spiritual manifestations. Now let's hop on to some other stuff before we finish out the show here. Remember the series we did on people stuck in walls? Remember this? We did a whole series of these videos. Why? Because there seemed to be a rash of stories of people stuck inside of walls. And we went back to the Bible and we found that there were spiritual overlays to Ezekiel's vision about the abomination and unclean things inside of the wall. The prophet Ezekiel in Ezekiel 8, God shows him a secret room hidden behind a wall in the temple. Inside, Ezekiel sees depictions of creeping things and abominable beasts and all the idols of the house of Israel portrayed upon the wall round about. These images represent the idolatrous and unclean practices the Israelites were secretly committing in the house of God. Well, here we go again. A Davenport woman. I don't know what happened to my screen right now. Let's try to refresh this. Was found between two walls. Let's read this and see if there's any other spiritual connections to all this. Unbelievable. Ganesco business.
County Jail after Geneseo police found her in between the walls of a business. 26-year-old Kaylee Getch faces burglary and trespassing charges. Police say a business owner on South State Street said they heard noises from the ceiling last night right before 5:30. Officers searched and cleared the scene when they couldn't hear anything. About 15 minutes later, the owner reported more whispering and movement, and police came back to search nearby businesses. Police later arrested Getch and are still investigating if other people were involved.
Wow. Unbelievable. Remember, what was it? It was that, what was that guy's name? And remember the televangelist Osteen, Joel Osteen. Whoa. I know his name's not spelled like that, but you have to wonder, right? And he was caught with unclean things hidden in the walls. What was it? A bunch of money that they were hoarding and hiding. A bunch of cash. Wow. All right, I'm back in the chat, you guys. So what are your thoughts on all this? Do you guys want to do a poll before we end the show today? Please thumbs up the video. Thanks for showing up live today. Tomorrow will be a re-upload, but we will stay on these headlines, and I will go live at any moment. So, are you guys seeing the connections with Oz and the dream realm and the faintings? Is that pretty clear? Hopefully I did a good job putting that together for you. Now, ooh, ostrich. Yes, they put their head in the sand. They put themselves to sleep. Whoa, good job. You guys are smart. There's got to be some. I'm going to also explore the. Let me write some notes for myself. Otherwise, I'm going to forget. Oval. I'm going to look at the oval because the oval might also unlock keys about sleep and what that means. But I have to do my research on that. I'm also going to go back and read this. The Philo, the Desomnus. I need to do a deep dive on that after the show today. And if I find anything, we'll do a backup show. Yep, Ozzy. Yes, there you go. He spent basically the last 10 years of his life half asleep. He was like a walking sleep person. There was nothing behind the eyes at the end of Ozzy Osbourne's life. And you have to wonder if that had something to do with it. And his wife went on Ozempic. Wow, confirmed. Good job, you guys. You guys are amazing. Sleeping Beauty, the kingdom fell asleep, says Raw Jones. People are asleep, they're walking dead. Yes, Marcy. Okay. Now, coming from a women's health background, the os is actually a part of the female anatomy. And I have to go back into my brain memory banks here because it's been decades since I worked in that industry. But the os is in the cervix, and it's basically the opening of the cervix. Whoa. Well, okay. I think we figured it out, you guys. So the cervical os, it's called. And the reason why I remember this is because they would have to dilate. I'm going to just type in what I'm saying here. Dilate the cervical os. It's called the os, literally, to insert the Mirena, which was the IUD. And, you know, if it wasn't the right part of the woman's cycle, the os could be too constricted, and you wouldn't be able to insert the IUD through the cervical os. And so therefore, some of the providers would have to use dilators, which are a series of, I know this might be too graphic for some of you, but it's a series of, whoa, someone just said, I'm getting ADHD now. They killed an ostrich in Canada. Whoa. Thanks for that, Christy. Anyway, they have to use a series of dilators, which are basically rods with increasing thickness to continue to open up the cervical os. So they go one in after the other, and it would dilate it enough to insert the Mirena. So what's interesting is all of the studies that we've done on the womb and the child in the womb having amnesia in the amniotic fluid. The amniotic fluid is the forgetting fluid. It's the sleep fluid. The amnesia fluid. This is why almost nobody can remember being in the womb. Now, my earliest memories of childhood go back to about 6 months old. And I confirmed that with my mother. We've had long discussions about it, about my earliest memories. And I told her where I remember being. And she says, that's impossible. You were only 6 months old. You couldn't even walk. I said, really? She said, yes. Now, most people cannot remember under like 3 years old. Okay. For some reason, I can remember that. So we speculated that maybe the amniotic fluid, the amnesia, is why we can't remember all the way back to being in the womb. Now, I don't know. I don't claim to know the exact dynamic of how that works, but it's interesting to speculate, isn't it? Now, God knew us in the womb, didn't he? And maybe that is the cutoff. Maybe when God knew us and then we are birthed in through the portal into this reality, this is when we forget the heavenly things. We have to kind of relearn it throughout our entire life, right? We have to come to know God again throughout our life. But the cervical os, the land of os, the land of amnesia, forgetting, the land of dreams. And this is why when we wake up from dreams, it's so hard to remember them. Maybe we go into the land of Oz. And all of this has national ramifications on the world stage right there in the Oval Office. And I promise I'll dig deep into that to see what else I can find. But whoa, blown away, right? Yes, the amniotic sac, the amnesiac sac. Whoa. All right. I'm back in the chat. Let's do this. Let's do a poll here. Start a poll. Can you remember before the age of 1? This will be a fun poll because there's something special, isn't there? There's something special. Let's see how many of you can remember before the age of 1. Pull up the ostrich story. Okay, thanks, Christy. Good idea. Let's do that. Now that we have the confirmed ostrich, the OS, right? It's OS, it's OZ. Both letters are similar in different languages. So I think we uncovered what the OS, OZ means. It's a portal. The OS is the portal to the dream world. So let's find the story. Oh my gosh. Can you believe this? Let's read. So we've got all these sleep stories. We've got Trump passing out. We've got fainting. We've got now the ostrich. Canadian federal agency says cull over all ostriches shot dead at British Columbia farm. This was November 7th, so this was just a couple days ago. Friday, it shot dead all ostriches at British Columbia farm, fulfilling a 10-month-old cull order over a bird flu outbreak. Canadian Food Inspection Agency said in news release on Friday a professional marksman was used and it was done in a humane way. Owners of the farm in the southern interior community of Edgewood, British Columbia, have been fighting the order in courts, arguing the surviving ostriches show no signs of illness and should be spared. Now, understand, we've done stories on this culling thing. Whoa. Lo and behold. Then they mention Dr. Oz. U.S. Health Secretary RFK Jr. sent a letter to the president of CFIA urging him to reconsider destroying the birds. Separately, Dr. Mehmet Ostrich, former TV personality and current administrator of the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid, offered his Florida ranch to relocate the animals. Well, he's probably going to do sleep studies on them. This is creepy, you guys. This is the Matrix. Whoa. A holding pen that was filling with ostriches on Thursday appeared still and empty of the live birds on Friday, and no ostriches could be seen anywhere else on the property. Instead, the pen where the shootings took place were filled with long blue tarpaulins covering objects on the ground that were also shrouded with black sheeting. So that's spiritual, that's symbolic. The black sheets covering them, putting them under. It's like being put under, put to sleep. Whoa. 300 to 330 birds. Oh, of course there's 330 birds. That's 33. Wow. Okay, what is this? A paywall? Hold on. Close that. So, welcome to the Matrix, you guys. The farmers' owners have said the cull was unnecessary because the flock was healthy and had herd immunity. See, they don't want herd immunity, do they? Herd immunity is natural immunity. That's God immunity. It's always God versus the devil. Always, every time. Look at this. US dollars 237. What are you talking about, Casey? 2, 3, and 6 plus 1 is 7. That's room 237 from The Shining, Dr. Sleep. It's all coded. Wow. Thanks, Christy, for prompting me to pull up the story. There's an umbrella that could be symbolic. The Ozempic injections. And we talked about this, the death of the farm. If you missed yesterday's re-upload, or day before yesterday's re-upload, we were talking about the death of the small farm. They go in and they kill everything. Kill, steal, and destroy. That's what the enemy does. The Bible tells us. Anything that's natural, anything that is of God, the devil wants to destroy. He wants to replace it with a counterfeit version. And so, therefore, the new excuse is disease. They're coming after the chickens. They're coming after everything. And there are certain countries where they're coming after the bees, which would be Australia. They are literally going to bee farmers and saying, oh, we have to cull your bees because disease is spreading. Wow. So let's look at this poll here. Most of you do not remember before the age of 1, but some do, about 30%. So thanks for chiming in on that. Okay, I'm back in the chat, you guys. Wow. What a trip. Psychological warfare. Yes, Sheldon. Scottish lad says, Trump said that Middle East peace was the all-time feather in the cap. And yet here they are still fighting, right? Still fighting. I stopped most of meds as they make me worse. The apothecary got me through, says Mark. Good job, Mark. Okay. You guys hear about them trying to go 41 days in government shutdown so they can shut down things permanently. Now there's a movement afoot. Some people are like, yeah, let it go. Let's go ahead and have a government shutdown. But here's the problem. Okay, they've got so many people dependent on the government in various ways. Essentially, it would turn America into a third world country if the government actually literally did shut down. I think a government shutdown should only affect the people who are making the rules, not the rest of us. But it is what it is. We'll have to just watch and see what happens. All right, you guys. Well, anything else you want to talk about before I do some additional research on the oval and Desomnus? Psalm 137, I knew you before I formed the earth. I was with you in the waters. When you crossed over, whispering the truth that one day I would bring it back in Jesus' name. Thanks, Marcy. The waters, the amniotic fluid. Okay. 30% of the U.S. population is on SNAP, says Sister G. Okay. All right, you guys, I'm going to pop off of here and do some additional research. I love each and every one of you. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Much love, everybody. Take care.